Welcome to the Franchise Success Formulas podcast. My name is Aisha Bascaro, and today we are going to talk about the top 10 challenges that franchisees are experiencing today. Now, I want you to know that these numbers, these challenges that I'm going to share with you today are not just random things searched on the internet. These are the challenges that franchisees that have engaged with our academy have shared with us that this is what they are confronting today and are the top challenges that we're now actually helping them address and overcome. But I thought that this would be a great topic for our podcast because as our audience, you will probably want to know how are your challenges compared to the challenges that these franchisees are encountering. And then maybe a tip or two of how to address them. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with challenge number 10. And by the way, I'm going to go backwards because these are actually in order of importance based on the franchisee's perspective. So challenge number 10, accountability. They're saying that they are finding a challenge on how to document and follow up with the execution of the expectations for the business. Now, you would think that this will be higher than number 10, but you'll see what the other ones look like, and then you'll let me know how that ranks in your world. But franchisees are saying that it is very hard for them. They don't have a specific process or procedure to hold their team members accountable. And they're finding that as a big challenge in their organization. Accountability is critical because if you could have all the guidance and training and delegation and empowerment that you want, but if you do not have a process to hold your people accountable to implement those the right way, well, maybe execution will be not as consistent as you want it to be. So this is what franchisees say is the number 10 challenge in their business. So I would say one of the tips that you want to have is you need to have a disciplinary process that you then have a documentation and you can then train your leaders on how to do it. Make it as simple as possible so that they can execute it, because the reality is that people do not like to have difficult conversations. So if you make it simple and you always talk about and address people's behavior, not that they are bad people, but what they did was the wrong thing. And ideally, you want to be able to go back and refer to your mission, vision, and values, right? Your charter. So you relate whatever opportunity there is to something that is directly related to your charter, then the conversation for accountability is much simpler. Let's go to challenge number 9, and that is culture and team alignment. Franchisees say that they're really having a hard time trying to figure out how to create the kind of culture that they want. How do they communicate? Why do they communicate? And how do they create the culture of positive, productive, maybe healthy competition in a way that creates the organization and the experience of the employees that they want? I will tell you that I mentioned it in number 10 challenge, and that is the creation of your charter. The mission, vision, and values should be paramount for you to be able to get culture. Because without having the mission, vision, and values, how do you create culture? So if you want to create a good culture, you need to first define what are we supposed to accomplish every day beyond, doing the burgers or the car washes or the facials. Like, what's the mission that we want to accomplish? And then, of course, what's the vision? What's the long-term vision that we want to have? And I would say most important, what are the values and the principles that we use to make decisions? If you do that and then talk about those mission, vision, and values, and if you actually interact with that in every conversation that you have, that is how you're going to start to build a culture that is in alignment with the kind of experience that you want to create in your organization. And that brings us with challenge number 8, which is growth and expansion. They're saying that they're finding very difficult to grow and expand. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that even with the few units that they have, 1, 2, or 3, it is so much work and it is so challenging and so difficult that the idea of growing and scaling, even though they badly want it, is a challenge. And I would say it has to go back to creating the systems and processes so that you can delegate operations and management to your leaders. If you want to expand and grow successfully, you have to create those systems and you have to document them so that you can delegate them and have consistency of execution. And so that's going to be something that's going to be very important for you. If you are finding yourself that growing and expanding is a challenge, and if it's not the systems, maybe you don't have a proper unit opening process. That's another tip that I'm going to give you on that area. A lot of the times, challenges that you're having are an indication of a system, a process, a procedure, or a policy that's missing in your organization. So I want you to think about that every time you're thinking of these challenges, okay? So that brings us to challenge number 7, and that is inventory management. Interesting. They're saying that they literally have no way to track or manage the inventory of the products. And even though 60% of our clients are food service and 40% are retail personal service, inventory tracking seems to be an issue across the board, since it is an issue or challenge number 7. And so I would suggest that first of all, you need to have some sort of platform software program that will help you. I mean, it is 2025. Technology is now the tool, indispensable tool for you to be able to manage a lot of your business processes. And inventory tracking and management is one of those very critical processes that you really need to use technology to be able to do it successfully and easily. One of the things that we teach our franchisee clients is that if you want to have excellent execution, number one rule is that you need to make it simple, and technology makes it simple. So think about that. If you're having an issue with inventory tracking and product management, find a tool that can help you do that makes it easy, and then you can train your people and delegate on that. So with that, let's go to challenge number 6, marketing and sales growth. They're saying that they're having an issue creating a process in which to properly and effectively market the business to increase sales in their organization. And a lot of the times it's because we don't realize that the franchisor does have resources that we can use to help us be successful. So if you're having an issue and you know you need more sales and you don't have a process, my first suggestion is that you reach out to your franchisor and find out what tools and resources and guidance they have to do local store marketing. I think that's going to be very important for you. You need to own your sales. Franchisor is not going to come to your community and knock on your neighbor's doors asking them to come and buy your product or service. That's going to be up to you or your team members and leaders in the units that you own. And so reach out to your franchisor and get yourself as knowledgeable as possible on anything that they recommend that you do locally. And that will be a very good first step. Challenge number 5 is financial management and profitability, right? That's number 5. And what they're saying is that they don't know what they need to do to be able to control the costs that they're having, whether it's labor costs, cost of goods, and the different expenses of a business. They do not have the knowledge or the financial clarity of how to read a profit and loss statement, how to interpret it, how to understand it, and then understand what are the most important numbers in the organization and what are the activities that they need to do to be able to improve those numbers, which I find these really interesting and troublesome that franchisees find this such a big problem. Because I would think if you are in business, one of the things that you need to have, one of the knowledge bases that you need to really acquire as a business owner, franchisee, is financial acumen. Many franchisees are struggling with it, and that's the reality. Even our clients. I mean, I know that literally none of our clients had a financial plan for the year until they join our programs and learn how to do that. And so understanding your financial management, profit and loss statements, and how to manage your business so that you can achieve that profitability is going to be very important. One of the tips that I recommend is that you reach out to your franchise accountant, and if you don't understand your financials, that you actually sit down with them, go line by line until you are clear on your business numbers so that you know what to do to be able to achieve your business goals. So with that, let's go to franchisee challenge number 4. And they say that it is time management and burnout. Being a business owner, being a franchisee has become a lot more than they expected. They have administrative overload, no time to plan, and they're working too many hours. That's not what they expected at all. Most franchisees think, I'm investing in a franchise and I'm going to have time and financial freedom, only to find out that that is not the case. Not until you put the systems in place and you grow large enough to have a team to delegate operations. And that is just the reality of franchise industry. having one unit is a job. And if you're not involved in a day-to-day of the one unit, you are leaving a lot of money on the table, and you may be finding it challenging to be profitable and successful with that unit if you're not involved in the business. In the beginning of your organization, you do need to be very involved in 1, 2, 3 units, literally until you get to the size of when you can hire a district manager so that they can oversee operations. You need to be involved. And so you're going to be busy 100%. But the more that you create systems and processes and procedures and document them and train your people on them, you are going to be very busy. So my suggestion is start defining those systems, those processes, those procedures, document them and train your people as quickly as fast as possible on consistent processes so that you can delegate and have that freedom and time and work-life balance that you want and deserve. And that brings me to franchisee challenge number 3. And that is leadership development. Yes, the third highest challenge the franchisee shared with us is leadership development. And this is not just about developing the leaders in the organization, but even developing themselves on how to be the type of leader that their employees are looking for. Because a lot of franchisees come from different backgrounds, right? Government employees, insurance agents, real estate agents, etc. And the people that they used to work with all the time and even either report to that reported to them are not going to be the same type of people or sometimes generation as the people that are going to be working with them in their franchise organization. So they need to learn how to be the type of leader that those type of employees are needing and are looking for to be inspired in the organization. And the reality is that this is a big challenge. I mean, there's a lot of tools and classes and books that you can, read and learn about and how to become, a great leader, but creating a very specific system and things of what you're looking for, especially in your industry, is going to be very, very important. So my recommendation is define what are the actions of the leaders that you're looking for, that your people are looking for within the industry that you are, and then measure yourself against those actions and behaviors, and then measure your people against those actions and behaviors, and make it as simple as possible to start with. And eventually you can invest in other bigger programs, maybe books and a higher level training so that you can continue to develop your people. But leadership is going to be very important. If you want to grow and be a successful franchisee, having that leadership skill is going to be very, very important. And that brings us to challenge number 2, which is the second biggest challenge for franchisees. And you're going to see a theme in this one because the challenge that they have verbalized to us is systems and execution. Yes, obviously I have talked about systems and processes and procedures all along all these challenges, because I will tell you, like I said before, the answer to most of your complaints or concerns is that you need to create a system, a process, a procedure, a policy against that so that you can then delegate and train your people on those things. Well, clearly franchisees have identified this as a problem. As a matter of fact, it's the second biggest problem they encounter, which is how do I create the system? How do I determine what is the right system? How do I then train the system? How do I document the system? And how do I do it in a way that then people can actually execute, right? Creating a standard operating procedure on the business systems, which is not what the franchisor provides, is going to be on you. And you need to be able to understand, and you need to be able to understand how to create those, how to document them, how to train them, and how to delegate it to the team members so that they can then execute them with a high level of excellence. That is the second largest challenge the franchisees encounter. They know that that's a need that they have, and they find themselves not knowing how to do it. And for that reason, they are stuck in their enterprise. All right. And that brings me then to the number 1 and the biggest challenge franchisees encounter in their business. And I'm sure you're going to guess it: staffing and people. We are in a people business. There is not one franchise that can be done by one person alone. Well, maybe there is. That's a job, really. So, but most 99% of franchises require people. Even if it's one other person or 2 other people, either way, it requires people. And this is the number 1 and biggest challenge for franchisees. How to recruit, how to find the right people, how to then interview them in the right way, how do you then hire them in the way that sets the tone for the job, the employer-employee relationship, how do you onboard them in the way that people get excited, how do you then train them, and how do you motivate them, and how do you discipline them, and etc. All the things around people is the number 1 biggest challenge for franchisees today. So if you're a franchisee, you are probably going to agree with this one. If not number 1, it's going to be in the top top 3 for sure. So that is the top 10 biggest challenges that franchisees encounter today. Now, with that, if you agree with these 10 challenges, if you have, 1, 2, 3 more, 10, maybe all of them are your challenges too, and you would like to know how to overcome these challenges, I would like to invite you to explore our Command program. This is a program for multi-unit franchisees where we help them in their journey to create the systems, the processes and procedures to be able to create this and overcome all of these challenges. All you need to do is go to our website at AmericanFranchiseAcademy.com, go into our programs page and look for the Command program. It is a program designed for franchisees that are growing into a multi-unit enterprise and want to achieve time and financial freedom. If you want to grow more units, you need to be able to delegate operations. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that is if you define the systems and processes for your business management that the franchisor does not provide so that you can then delegate operations. So with that, I hope that this was helpful to you. Maybe you related to everything that I shared. If that's the case and you like to keep watching or listening to messages like this, all you need to do is follow us and subscribe to our podcast so that you can see all our future versions. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.